Welcome to Notorious Women, everyone. I'm Lavetta.
And I'm Miriam.
And we are Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
That's right.
How you doing, darling?
I'm good. I'm hanging in. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. I'm just like, I keep rewatching You, and I know it's been out for a while, but like, I am obsessed. Have you been watching the show?
Listen, I watched, I think, like 3 episodes, and I was liking it, but it got like dark.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's dark. It's a dark story. It's supposed to be really good. I'm the only one of my friends that don't like regularly watch it.
I mean, it is kind of like, and you mean 3 episodes of the first season? Is that what you mean?
I do. Okay. I really am behind. This was years ago.
Okay. So yeah, we're in the 4th season. And I have to say, even I like a serial killer kind of thing. I'm a true crime person. Shout out to My Favorite Murder, which is one of my favorite podcasts.
It's true. She talks about it all the time.
I do. What's up, Georgia? And oh God.
Listen,
Georgia and Karen.
Listen.
They're gonna kill us.
That's fine. I teach Pilates, right? And so I will have, you can come to my class twice a week for like 2 years. I will forget your name. I will know everything about you. I will know why your left elbow is weird and your right ankle got wonky. I will know that. And I will know how to help you, but I will not know your name. I won't.
It is so funny. I was just listening to them today, but I know and I've been a day oneer, Georgia and Karen, but My Favorite Murder. So obviously I'm a big true crime person.
Yes, you
like
are.
a lot of people. And so of course I was all into You. And then like even the 3rd season, I was like, come on, I'm gonna need this boy to get his comeuppance. I'm gonna need him to get it. But then 4th season, they're in England, and like I love how they rebooted the story. Like, I'm loving this. I don't like that they split it into 2 parts. I'm not happy about that, but I just keep rewatching it because I just love how they rebooted it. I love the feel of it. It feels very cozy, even though again, it's about murder.
Like, honestly, like it's funny you're bringing this up because the other night I was like, I don't know what to watch because I don't know what to watch ever. Unless it's a baking show, in which case I'm ready for you. And I almost started it, and then I was like,
you're gonna love it. I say click on it because it's very cozy. It's clever, and it has some of the original DNA, which made you fall in love with the show, but it's different. So it's like, I think if you didn't like 1st season, you're like, you will like 2nd season.
Okay.
Like, you know, because we're in the midst of like, you know, Glass Onion, Knives Out, kind of like, I love Bodies. I love all this iteration of like American murder mysteries. Like, yeah,
it's funny.
I'm here for it.
I actually love to read murder mysteries. For whatever reason, sometimes on the screen, like I can't handle it. My very delicate nature, you know, but a book all day. That said, and I've told you this before, Murdoch mysteries are my jam.
You know what, Murdoch, I just can't. I think it's the aesthetic of Murdoch mysteries, but I've seen it. I watched it. I saw a glimpse of it, a clip of it like recently. And I was like, oh, it looks very different than what it did in the beginning of the series.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. It's different. It's a different energy.
I'm an Anglophile, so I'm a Poirot, Miss Marple, Tommy and Tuppence. Like, I also watch, I actually subscribe to BritBox and Acorn. Like, that's how crazy I am.
Yeah, I know that about you, but yes, maybe not everyone does.
So I'm all about the murder mystery. So I would say check out You, season 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. Like, nothing's like anything is not perfect, but I think it's if you like Murdoch mysteries, because it feels more like obviously I'm in love with Poker Face. Like, it feels like something that you would recognize. It has the DNA, so I think you'll like it. So,
oh my God, I know we have to get started. Did you ever watch Quantum Leap?
Oh yeah, you mean the old one or the new one?
I mean it all. Yeah,
of course.
Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole opening of the original series, theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, because I want to. I really want to. It's obnoxious how much I want to. Have you watched it? It's so good. So I was obsessed with it, and I rarely like a reboot. Like, I get really excited, and then I'm like, oh, it's not gonna be as good. It is as good. Have you watched it?
Oh, I gotta check. I haven't watched the new one.
It is as good, and it's like, I would never say better. I would never say better. I apologize for almost saying it's better, because it's not. Because I love the original so much, but it's taking a twist, and it's also embracing today. There's like trends, issues. They just dive in, and that, like, I love them so much. I love them so much.
All right, okay. I have to check it out. I mean, you don't have to pull my arm. I remember liking the original, and Scott Bakula is he's been a Star Trek captain, so of course. I mean, come on,
obviously.
All right.
No, it's and because I loved Scott Bakula and I loved Dean Stockwell, like, and I love them all. Like, I now love these new people. Okay. And this I almost never love a reboot, but I love this
check
reboot.
It out. Yeah, I think they did the same thing with, it's network television, but the Hawaii what's the one with
Magnum
the guy
PI.
with the mustache? Yeah, the Magnum PI. I thought that was a good reboot. I was like, oh, I like that. I like that they but I just have to say, we mentioned Star Trek because I'm a Trekkie also. Yeah, I'm a big nerd over here. But we lost the Borg Queen.
Okay, I don't know what you just said, but I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, the actress she played.
Oh, the real person. Sorry.
Yeah, the actress Susanna Thompson. She played the Borg Queen. No, I'm sorry. Borg Queen Anna. Yeah, she played the more recent Borg Queen, because the original Borg Queen was someone else. But we lost. Her name is Annie. Actually, her name is Annie Wershing. And she played the Borg Queen in Picard. And then the original Borg Queen in the original Star Trek Next Generation was Alice Kriege. But Anna Wershing, who was so young, she was like 40-something, and she died.
How did she die? That's awful.
It was cancer.
Oh, my God. Fuck cancer.
But when you see her, she was on 24. She was in a ton of stuff. She was in just a ton of stuff. But when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, we lost the Borg Queen. She was so good, because the original Borg Queen was so gangster. But like, when in the Picard version, when the Borg Queen came, I was like, oh my God. I thought it was the same one. But that's how good she was. Yeah.
Listen, I thought you were talking about a plot point when I was being flipped. Let me just be clear. It is not. I am so sad. That's awful.
Oh yeah, we lost the Borg Queen. R.I.P. R.I.P. to her family, and but it's so sad, so young.
Yeah.
And just so hold your loved ones close, people. Be kind to each other, because you never know when you're gonna lose people.
That's true.
So, but we should get started.
Yes.
I believe you are first this week. So who's your notorious woman for me?
So my notorious woman this week, this is a fascinating story.
Okay.
Because this goes back in the day. I'm going to tell you my source before I even tell you anything. It's Mutual Misunderstandings, Gesture, Gender, and Healing in the African Portuguese World by James H. Sweet. So I sometimes go searching for things and I find random things. It's not easy to find, but so we don't know when she was born exactly, but it happened in 1556.
1556. Wow.
So back in the day. And we don't know what circumstances led her to become a slave of Paulo Manriquez.
Manriquez. So I'm assuming she was enslaved by a Portuguese person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we know that she arrived in the Portuguese Azores in 1556 from her homeland of Benin, which is in West Africa.
Okay.
And so
Parts
I'll
of,
just
Dahomey also. Benin is what we say today, but
okay.
Yeah, just I believe so. I could be wrong.
I believe you. Again, I only know very little, but I want to bring her to our attention because she's fascinating. So she is a trans woman.
You know why we're covering her? Because trans women are women.
They are women, and I think. Okay, I want to share
that, Ron DeSantis, in your terrible boots. He's such a
motherfucker. You can quote me on that.
Anyway, yes, I'm sorry.
I mean, I say the same about Hitler. Ron DeSantis could suck it.
Yeah.
Total side note. The reason I'm bringing her this story is, let me tell you a quick story. I've probably told you this before. I don't remember, but when I remember social media before it was social media, like MySpace.
There's a 15-year-old out there like, what is MySpace?
I don't know her. Exactly. That's fine. She left, but she was here for a hot minute. And I was like having like one of the earlier arguments you could have with an old friend. And what he said was, but gay was invented in the 90s. Like, what? Now, this is not a story of gay. This is a trans story. I understand that. But in terms of like LGBTQI
and queer stories
and history,
yes.
This kid genuinely believed that gay was not a thing until the 1990s.
1990s, not the 990s, not the 1590s, not the 1690s.
Not the two are the negative 4 billion, which is the reality of human history. But 1990s. So I was like, how far back can I find a beautiful person. Story, right?
Yeah.
Of a queer person and I found her. And I mean, it's not going to be very long because, it's the 1556s.
And she's a black trans woman and like,
yeah.
Wow.
But like, let her story shine, So
that's amazing. Wow. Okay.
She was given clothes that was more typical of a man by her master, because obviously he's a son of a bitch. And she found ways to create clothes from like old discarded woolen cloth that she found in her master's stables to make appropriate clothing for her.
Okay.
I will describe the clothing because it's interesting.
Have you said her name?
I haven't.
Okay.
We only know her first name is VITORIA.
VITORIA. Okay.
VITORIA. Maybe I did. I don't even remember.
Okay.
I have Swiss
So VITORIA is living her best life. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though she's been enslaved. Okay.
She's been enslaved. She gets to land and says, yeah, no, I'm going to fix it. And she does it. I love her. So she earned a living selling sexual favors to men. Because at this time, like, what? She earned a living? I thought she was a slave.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah. So the way it worked, I really only know in this space and this time period, like in Portugal, is that you would sleep in your master's home and you would have certain things you had to do for him. But I say him because patriarchy and all that shit. But during the day, all the slaves could go off and ply their wares and make a living. And they had I think they were given like dinner at their master's home, but they had to get their own meals during the day and they could have their own money. They had to give a percentage of it back to their owner, but
it sounds like
could create a life a little bit.
It sounds more like indentured servitude almost. Like,
yes, but what I've heard, indentured servitude has an end date.
It could be just this was the form of slavery prior to the explosion that became the Atlantic slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, and chattel slavery.
Right.
So it could be. This is probably the more accurate ancient form of slavery that probably existed for thousands of years before.
It's a little bit like, I'm sure you've had to deal with it, so I'll talk about it. How like people are like, oh, well, slavery was forever. Like we go starts at human history. Why are you blaming America? Well, because America created chattel slavery. And,
America and the West,
and the West.
Yeah.
A lot of people supported it. They should also rot in hell. But it definitely was much more aggressive, much more awful, and we should, And
it's a kind of bondage where like it's stigmatized through like something that you can find like a person's skin tone, right? But then, like you said, it's chattel slavery, so it reproduces itself, and it's the whole purpose is to not end. Whereas, like in ancient slavery structures, you were a slave, but your children weren't necessarily slaves.
Right. And I mean, anyone who's a parent knows the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
So that's interesting. So in the evening, she would go off and make money on her own as a sex worker. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was during the day.
Oh, okay.
But then her master took her to Lisbon, which is more of a thriving city. And she was able to actually run her prostitution business out of a small house near the docks.
She became a madam. Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me.
I know, right? Okay. So there were merchants, carters, fallers, fishmongers. I honestly don't know 2 of the 4 things I just said. Out there, what's a carter? Who's a carter? A faller? I don't know.
I don't know.
So African slaves comprised nearly 10% of the city's total population.
Really?
And they figured prominently among those working on the docks.
10%?
Yeah,
wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Wow.
So, I mean, she could kind of have a life. Like, kind of.
As much as you could have in that circumstance, but yeah, wow.
So, as with all stories that involve white European men, things don't last great forever.
Oh, God.
So she did a lot of other jobs as well. She carried like women's jobs were carrying a vessel of water on her head. It was also a prominently like a job held for African women as well. I don't know if like there were other places as well, so I don't want to discount. And they would sell that water too. So she did a lot of things to make her money.
Yeah, it's a gig economy, basically.
It's a gig economy, yes.
And 1590 something. Okay.
56. So occasionally she would sometimes was seen doffing a hat as though a man would doff a hat. And someone was bored and an asshole and decided to let that doubt her gender because
oh God,
yeah,
because assholes are gonna asshole.
Assholes are gonna asshole.
Yep. Poor Victoria, minding her own business.
Seriously, and these people had nothing better to do than to start to wonder, like to start to question her gender. Which is really heartbreaking because she's just doing her own thing. She's not.
I don't like where this is going. Do we need to do a trigger warning?
Yeah, I would say let's do a trigger warning here because this is hard. This is hard.
Okay.
But I want to share her story so that her story lives on.
You have to bear witness to her humanity and share her story, and hopefully someone will who's not us, who's actually a historian or who has some kind of pull will uncover even more details of her life.
Yeah, so. and like make the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they went to her master's family and asked, "What? Really? nothing better to do. And a servant woman who lived in the house said that she had been castrated. Now, I wonder if that servant woman was actually trying to help her. I doubt it, because if she wanted to help her, she'd be like, "She's a woman. Get off my property. Bye, peace."
Yeah.
So at the house that she ran her business, right, at her brothel, it was, so this is sort of an interesting, it's a very, not sort of, definitely an interesting side note, that as many as 7 or 8 men could be found outside her house, and some were inside and others were waiting to finish so they could go inside, which, it sounds like just a bunch of men trying to have sex.
Well, it sounds like Victoria was, sounds like she was very, very popular.
Uh-huh. So it turns out that she was popular because Vittoria was a healer. Not just sexually, but she did have sex, and she was a prostitute, but she also,
sex worker, as we say.
I'm sorry, a sex worker, yes. Which should be a totally legal profession.
Amen to that, sister. Amen to that.
I mean, it's thriving. You might as well make it legal.
And safe,
And safe. Oh my God. So many opinions I have. All right. So, and where she comes from, she was fully accepted as a healer, and people, because I think there were a lot of slaves from her area, recognized that in her, and she was doing really well. Okay, and this is
so the men. I'm sorry. So the men you were saying there were men lined up, and they're like, "Oh, she's popular," but it's like they were lined up for her, not only that, probably sexual, services, but also for her healing services.
Yes. And
she was known as a healer.
As a healer, exactly.
Wow.
So, this was all happening, and then some motherfucker had to cause a problem. The Portuguese Inquisition.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. Arrested her on charges of sodomy.
Oh.
So this is very much a trigger warning. This is hard, but I'm going to share the story. Under questioning, she did insist she was a woman with all the woman parts. She said she had the anatomy to prove it, and they demanded to know, what they considered the truth.
Okay, so just imagine this. You're minding your own business. You've already been enslaved, right? Like you're brought to this foreign land, and you're like, I'm just going to do the best I can here. So I'm going to live my life the way I was living when I was chilling back at home.
And this was totally accepted and normal.
Yeah, but you have to deal with being in bondage, and then, finding a way to make a living on top of that. So you do this, and then, but you're able to continue healing, like your healing services. Because if you're a healer, you're a born healer.
Yes.
And you can't help but do that. And you want to help people. And the word gets around, and people are like, yeah, you're a healer. I need your help. And then the satisfaction you get from that, you're just minding your own fucking business. And here these assholes come. The Inquisition. That can never be good.
I mean,
and then to demand, take off your clothes. Let me see what you look like naked. What?
And listen, I think sometimes we have a very skewed view. Media has thoroughly fucked up our view on trans people, in a lot of ways. And I like, listen, this is me. I'm cis. I'm fine. I remember having to go to a doctor to look at something in private parts when I was younger. It was horrifying.
Taking off your clothes just to go to the doctor is horrifying for most human beings. But then to be demanded, these weird, like, officials demanding that you do it so they can poke around your body is just a whole nother level of like horror. Like, she must have been horrified.
And I think it's really important to get, like, that's abuse. Like, what they did to her was absolute abuse. And from what I read, they just looked. But I'm here to say that just looking is abuse.
Yeah. Demanding to look like you think you have a right, and it's so sad because she doesn't have status. No, because she's enslaved. She's in this foreign country with these weird pale people. I went there. And she's also just trying to live her life. And then these people, I think people don't think about that. Like they think, oh, I'm just curious. I just want to know. But it's like, imagine somebody turning around to you and being like, I want to see what's underneath. Like, take off all your clothes. I want to inspect you.
Imagine you're anybody and that happens to you. Yeah. Like, we need to call the spade the spade. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you just, have you heard about this new law? I'm sorry, sidetrack, where some fucking state, it's probably a southern state, and I could say that because I'm southern, but like, where they're trying to pass a law where I think it's fucking Florida.
It's probably Florida, and I don't even know what you're going to say.
Where they're demanding to see the menstrual cycle records.
Okay, it is Florida. I've been following it. They overturned it. They tried to defend it first. They were like, well, we actually need to know due to the health and bullshit. And then they did overturn it because that's fucked up.
For now, but it'll probably come back because it's fucking Florida.
It's fucking Florida, girl. I have a friend who lives in that state, and every time she's just like, I hate it here. Like, drives her insane.
Oh, yeah. Why do you think I'm from Florida? Why do you think I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here?
Yeah, no.
Because it's fucking Florida.
It's fucking Florida. Sorry, Disney World.
So they put her on trial. They examine her and and charge her with sodomy, you said?
They charged her with sodomy. The final report concluded, this is a quote, she had the physical character of a man and none of a woman. She was given a life sentence in the king's galleys. Oh. I don't know what happened to her after that. I mean, I assume she passed.
Baby.
But she led a short life as far as I can see, but you know.
I mean, I'd like to hope that she was able to get out. They forgot about her, moved on to persecuting somebody else, and she was able to get out. But it's so interesting because they did this to a slave. Like, so it wasn't bad enough that she was ripped from her homeland to become a slave to this weird place called Europe. But then they, on top of all of that, they convict her for living out loud and proud. Like, and then we lose track of her in the public record. Yeah. It sounds like.
Yeah. Honestly, too, like I found this one article written by this man. I appreciate that he wrote it. It's not an easily accessible story at that. Yeah. And then, so there's later cases, they call it African sodomites, but like,
oh God,
fuck that word.
Yeah.
But that was how the Europeans phrased it. 'Cause Europeans are assholes. Sorry, dudes. Like, let's do better. I mean, much of Europe is doing better. But there was another person they found from Central Africa who did the same thing in Portugal. And he explained that in the language of Angola and Congo, they called them jimbanda. And the Portuguese, these motherfuckers were like, oh, that means passive sodomite. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So they interpreted. So I have a question though. So you said he. So was it like, what do we have a name for?
Well, what it was, as far as I can tell.
Is it like Two-Spirit? Is it like Two-Spirit for Native American?
Yes. So I don't know enough about
or
this.
Non-binary.
From how they described it then, in every sort of this guy kind of talked about it. So it really meant healer, right? And it was if you were born with male parts, but you were feminine, you were considered
energy.
like godly and a connection to the spirits. And you were very important to that tribe. And every tribal chief had, they called it Jinbada Banda. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. And they were honored and they were very, very important.
So, Miriam, you're telling me that our trans and non-binary ancient folks were deities. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what the fuck I'm saying. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Pray to your friends who are trans.
That. Thank you. Fucking Florida.
Fuck you,
All
Florida.
the people you are trying to discriminate against and erase from history, they've been here since the beginning of time.
Yes.
And they were considered deities.
I was like, it's not just that they were here. They were fucking godly. They were the greatest advisors. They controlled a lot of history because a lot of chiefs wouldn't do anything without the approval of the Jinbada.
And it's almost like I can imagine though, because you're like, they have access to the masculine, the feminine, and the spiritual.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like our Holy Trinity. We say Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but I'm like, it should not be Father, Mother, and Son. I'm just, I feel like that's wrong. But it just sounds like that, because it's so interesting how, like, when you go back in history, it's like people were a lot more spiritually advanced, and intellectually advanced than they are, quote unquote, the modern world. It's just really interesting.
From my perspective, like as a white cis woman growing up in America, I feel like I felt since I was like in my early 20s, just some sense of like was never really given a good sense of like the world and how the world really works. And I feel like maybe that's how you and I got together. I've been clawing my way, trying to figure out like really the history of humanity, like really where do we come from and who we are, like. Yeah.
And I mean, again, we are assuming Victoria is a trans woman because she took on the name of Vitoria.
Yeah.
And so, but she may have, they didn't have language for it back then. Well, obviously they probably did have language that we just can't translate properly.
It was the fact that she said, I am a woman with all woman parts tells me that she was a trans woman.
Yeah.
But
but we know that we are two cis women, that we may have this wrong. So we obviously want to make room for the fact that I know me, I'm a basic bitch, and sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake, and
I don't want to say
I
anything,
am open.
But
screw you.
Kidding. I'm the basicest of bitches. I love a pumpkin spice latte.
But what we're saying is that we have open hearts and open minds, and we are here to learn. But this is just so beautiful that you wanted to share Victoria's story and show people, this may be helpful for, cis people out there, cis or straight people, or cis straight people who may have little ones in their lives.
Yeah.
Who are trying to express how they feel, but they don't have the language, but how they're feeling inside. So maybe this is a little guideline for, those adults who are like, oh, this is something to tell them. Like, oh, no, what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, there have been human beings since the beginning of history that have felt the same thing or similar thing.
If you could tell that child, it's natural.
Yep.
This is natural. This is part, this is part, you have a long history.
Yep.
To connect to, and who you are is beautiful, and exactly who you're supposed to be.
Exactly. And you can tell those motherfuckers to suck it.
Yes. Or send them my way. I'll tell them to suck it. It's fine.
Yeah. But because knowledge is power. But that is just so, I wish we could hear. I wonder if in Portugal, if they have a little bit more information about her fate. But I'd like to believe that but at the very least, I'd like to believe that her life ended not tragically, or she was able to at least come back to her friends and family, to remove herself from that, or at least go back to a life where she can find joy. But I will say it sounds like she had that joy in Benin, and even a little bit of that joy when she was enslaved and brought to Portugal. And then, but it's telling how she was living her life out loud and finding joy and continuing to help people. And that's still not enough to assholes. Yeah. Because they will come for you. This is why when you say, I'm not political, I can't get involved, because sooner or later it's going to come to your doorstep and you have to stand for something.
Yep. I mean, you can't. Listen, if you're not political, then you're political in a bad way. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, apolitical is not a choice in these times.
I've talked to people who are like, well, I'm not political. But then you get them talking and they are political. They just don't realize it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if they're asking for the menstrual cycle records of child athletes,
you probably should err on the side of that's not nice.
That's not right. So fuck those assholes. But more importantly, let's get back to Victoria. But thank you so much for like telling her story, even though we don't have a lot of
it's very short
material.
But I just like, just so you know.
And also that there's a whole society whole society of individuals who were deified and held up to high status in their communities. And, colonization and the slave trade really obscured and destroyed a lot of spiritual teachings and spiritual attitudes that made us far more advanced than we are now.
It really fucked it all up. It like fucked it all up, right?
Yeah.
Like, can we like admit that it fucked it all up? Can we not like be like, well, it was good because? Can we not? Can we like pull the well out and be like, it was really bad?
Yeah, I as a Black person, fuck that.
You're good with that? I thought you might be.
Yeah. Fuck I don't know. The slave trade and fuck all you douchebags who did it. So
I feel like I was talking to some white supremacist person once because they love me, and they do. It's problematic, but it gives me like a little in and maybe changing their mind a little, And they said, well, we became a world power, and I said, you know what? I would be like super okay if we struggled for a long time and not had slavery. And they looked at me like I had three heads, but I feel like that shouldn't be an odd thing to say, right?
Well,
like
also, I would take issue with that. We became world power. I think, when he says we, he means the white people from Europe. Because it sounds like the rest of the world was doing fine.
They were fine. Yeah.
Sounds like they were, the Mayans, the Aztecs, they seemed like they were doing fine. Like
they were good.
The Africans were, they were doing fine. Like, everybody's fighting each other, but so are the Europeans. Like, but
I mean, they were fighting each other. So were you, motherfuckers. You had wars entitled the 100 Years' War.
100 years.
Like, really?
Again, our favorite topic here: white on white crime.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing you say.
You mean white on white crime?
I know. It's really a problem. We need to fix it now.
Well, thank you, darling, for that. Victoria. Yes. Oh, I hope that she went to a beautiful place in heaven.
Yes. I know she's there.
Yes, and continued her healing. Okay, so I am actually going back to the ancient world as well. And I don't know if this is ancient, but old-timey. My notorious woman this week is a Chinese woman. Okay. And my sources from today come from amazingwomeninhistory.com, theculturetrip.com, and offcolorwiththeu.org. So offcolor.org.
British off color. Yes.
British off color.
Because I'm British. I'm not.
I'm telling you, 2 episodes of Downton Abbey and now she's British.
What, Lavetta, darling, what are you talking about? Like I really had to work for that sentence I just said, but I'm pretty proud of it. So,
well, my notorious woman this week is by the name of, she's Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, so please forgive my pronunciation.
Okay.
My stupid American accent. So forgive me, but her name is Lin Sinhyang. Lin Sinιang.
Okay.
And she was born in 1629.
Wow, she goes back.
Yeah, not as far back as Victoria, but pretty far back. And she was born towards the end of the Ming Dynasty.
Okay.
To an impoverished military family. Now, despite her family's poverty, her father made sure to give her proper instruction in the use of the sword, the spear, and martial arts.
Oh,
which
okay.
I think we need to bring that practice back. I think we need to
Yes.
teach all little kids, especially little girls,
Yep.
how to
The
fight
sword,
with a spear.
the spear, and what was the last one?
Martial arts.
Martial
just in
arts.
general.
Yep.
I
100%.
think in case somebody get out a little touchy, a little handsy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
little
we
girl
can't have
just,
that.
yeah, just
Yeah.
stab them, impale them with a spear. I'm all for that.
Good on her
yeah.
father being
I
like,
know.
my little girl's going to be a badass.
Yeah. So when she was at the age of when she was 6,
Okay.
she was said to be able to wield a sword with deadly precision.
At 6?
So at 6. So much so you had to believe it to see it. So it reminds me almost of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, where she was playing the guitar at 6.
Oh, yes. And I look back at myself at 6 and I was like, oh, no, I could not. I was working on my handstand and, I was falling a lot,
You were like, I was working on my backflip. Like, that's what I was working on. Not playing with a sword. I'm just,
I wasn't at the backflip portion of my life yet. So you are ahead of me.
No, I was still working on it. I was still like trying to perfect it and failing miserably.
It's okay.
She was able to kill people with a sword at 6. So yeah.
Wow.
Now, but when she was a teenager, so it sounds like her and her family were pretty close, even though they were poor. They were pretty close. But when she was a teenager, her parents were killed.
What?
Yeah, and she was left with no family to care for her. So she had to turn to sex work to survive. Man, life was hard.
This world, man.
Whew. Like nowadays, you might have to go in the system, but then you turn 18, you get a job, you go to school, but you're still in school. But back then, your parents died.
It was like
you just
you go to sex work. Yeah,
yeah. Now, even though she had to turn to sex work, it's believed that she still, while having to do this during the day, she worked. So she would work. Let me rewind back a little bit. So during her sex work, it's believed that she would work long days during the day on the bank of the Qinghuan River
we
near
can Google that. Yeah.
Yes, it's near modern day Nanjing.
Okay.
So she would spend her days on the banks looking for customers, but she would spend even longer nights training at the end when the sun went down, training and continuing her combat skills.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm exhausted. I went to bed last night at 8:00 at night because I was tired because I drove 45 minutes, drove 45 minutes, picked up my children, and then I was like, I'm out. Peace. Done. I'm done. This woman is having to touch those men. That's exhausting, right?
Listen,
and
I
then
get
she's up half the night.
I get winded by taking a trip to Target. So listen.
Yes. Same. Okay. All those
Oof.
people.
Oh man.
Everyone
So
touching everything. Okay.
Oh, I know, right?
Right.
So she would continue her combat skills. I would also imagine it's probably making her feel close to her family.
Yeah.
She would, remembering her parents and but it was said during one of these like training combat sessions at night, she was spotted by a feudal lord by the name of Ching Chu. No, his name was Ju Chung Chu. No, Ju Chung Shu.
Okay.
Ju Chung Shu. Mm-hmm. He was the feudal lord of a province called Qingchu. Okay. So Ju is the feudal lord and the province is Qingchu. I think. Again, basic
Right.
American bitch. So I may not have that right. So, but it sounds like he saw her one night, and I would imagine he's like, what am I watching?
I mean, it must have been incredible to watch her.
Yeah,
Like,
she's this beautiful young woman, and she's probably dressed in her like daily wear, but
Right?
she's like practicing combat skills.
easily
So-
able to murder anyone who walks in the door right now, right? Like,
Yeah. So by all accounts, he fell head over heels in love with her at first sight, but not because of her looks and probably the way she was dressed, but because of the way she was wielding a sword and a spear.
I mean, let's be real, that's hot. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So immediately he was like, come with me, woman. Let's go. And she's like, what? All right. She
Ugh.
probably smacked him in the face and kicked him
a little
because she
bit.
got combat skills.
I do hope so. Okay.
Yeah. Or who knows? Maybe he was smart and he was like, yo, what's up, girl? How you
And
doing,
she was a
girl?
teenager being like, stop it.
Stop it. Stop it. So, but he took her away to become his lady or one of his concubines, because a man
Okay.
like this definitely got other concubines.
Yeah.
He's the lord of the manor of the area. But he was also just impressed with her, and they said that they felt like it was a love. He actually did fall in love with her.
Oh, that's nice.
And he also admired her so much so that he eventually asked her to teach his other concubines the martial art skills that she had learned.
Okay, listen, that's amazing. I want to be. Do I want to be a concubine? No, I actually don't. But if I was,
But back then you probably wanted to be, because then you could
Yeah.
just live in a palace and not.
live in a palace, and like, how many concubines? Like, how often does he need me? Like, not that often.
Exactly. Probably
Right?
once a month.
So let's do some martial arts. Let's learn how to be a badass. Thank you for this new woman. I would love that.
Yeah, I would imagine the other women are like, huh? I mean, some of them are probably like, no, I just want to sit around and eat grapes. The others are like, okay, maybe this is
I would
not
be
so bad.
all in. I'd be like, let's go.
Yeah, I'd be all in. So this went so well that it soon like escalated really like quickly to an all-female army.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. He had a lot of concubines. Okay.
Yeah. So this guy was like, huh, this is, I have to admit, I think that this is such a brilliant idea. Like, obviously the, was it Dora Milaje from Black Panther? That's based on the Women of Dahomey, the all-female army. And so I think that it's such a smart thing to do, you know, like.
It is.
Like,
you're just empowering yourself more, right?
Yeah. I just think it's so smart. So not, obviously, I'm sure this is not the first time someone brought this idea up to a man and he was like, women fight are ridiculous. Jew was like,
Listen.
let's do this. Let's do it.
I'm going to give him some credit that he was like, I will give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, we're going to give Jew some credit. But I will say this, Jew, he may have been maybe a good partner, a good feudal lord, but he wasn't good at keeping an eye on the province. So there was a terrible drought and a famine in the northern China, which brought the rebels, people who were starving, people who were upset, from the province of Shashi.
Okay.
Shashi and Shangxi provinces in search of food. So there's a famine. They're roaming the streets like, we got to get food.
If I'm hungry, I'm not going to be nice. So I can only imagine how they felt. Okay.
So, but because Jew didn't really take, he just didn't keep an eye on things. This is why you really got to keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
He didn't take the threats, the complaints, the reports that he was getting from the townspeople, from probably his own security. He didn't take it seriously. And eventually the rebels took him hostage.
Oh, God. Really?
while he was at a mountain retreat. Yeah, so he was traveling away from the city, which is usually fortified. If I know anything about feudal history, usually if you're in the city part, it's pretty fortified. But once you go out to the country, you're a little bit more vulnerable. So he was taken hostage.
Should not have gone on vacation that day. Got
right,
it.
because again, he's not taking it seriously. People get desperate when they get hungry.
Yes.
So he's taken hostage. Lean heard about this, and so she rallied her all-female army.
Okay.
And turned and led them into battle to bring him back.
Okay.
So they're like, let's go and get him. Peace out.
And
so
you know what? Because if he gets destroyed, what happens to them?
Well, that's true too.
Right?
Yeah.
I see that.
But also, I would imagine that, like, you know, the women who join this army, you get empowered because these women were not allowed to do much of anything.
Right.
You know, so this is just a way. I know, I mean, I'm a tomboy. I grew up a tomboy, so this is right up my alley. But it's also the fact that he's putting his trust in these women for protection. And like, you know, I think it's a high praise indeed if you're like, yeah, I feel like you guys can be my army. So they go to battle with the rebels.
Okay.
And despite managing to slay a large number of the rebel soldiers, Lean and all women of cadre of army of concubines were outnumbered.
Oh.
So they killed off a lot of them, but then they captured Lean. And they, well, before they captured her, so she's outnumbered.
Okay.
It's down to the wire. They asked her to surrender. She said, you can suck it. I'm not surrendering.
Okay, girl.
So she continued to fight. I have an image. It says she continued to fight until she was exhausted to block the blow that would kill her. Oh. And I'm getting like a, what's that that movie that Mel Gibson won? The Braveheart. I'm getting Braveheart imagery here.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm going to fight to the death. And she fought till she was too exhausted. And she was killed in this battle, this final battle. Now, the date of the battle is unknown, is uncertain, at least in the West. Okay. But it is believed that she died in 1644, which would have made her 15 years old.
Oh my God. Are you serious? First of all, that is a young concubine, but this is problematic back then as a general rule. But like, what?
I feel like people's lives were condensed back then. So if her parents died when she was like 12 or 13.
Yeah. And then she had no option but to sell herself at 12 or 13.
Yeah. Like, but she was reportedly around 15 years old. Let's say even if she's 18, because we don't know how accurate this is, but by all accounts, she was very young. Yeah. But to have the bravery.
Meanwhile, at this very young age, listen, if I was 18, I was not training 100 women to battle in an army successfully, because I would say that while they were obviously like in over their heads, ultimately they were highly successful, even though she died, even though they lost. Like, listen, me and 100 of my friends would do nothing. Okay. We would run screaming, crying.
And the fact that they knew they were outnumbered.
She would throw a chair. Other than that, like.
But to have the fortitude to continue to fight when you're that outnumbered.
Right.
And because I would imagine they show up and the rebel soldiers are like, what?
Yeah.
And then they start fighting. They're like, oh, shit. Like, what?
Right.
And then they're like, we got to kill them all. But the fact that she survived and they were like, okay, you will surrender. They asked her to surrender. I'm imagining a standoff. She's like, fuck it. I'm just going to go out in a blaze of glory. Like she's Billy the Kid before Billy the Kid was a thing, even though he was a criminal, but still.
I mean, he was a criminal.
Like she's just trying to fight. She's doing her job as a part of the the feudal lord's army. Now, despite their deaths, this all-female army, the bravery of Lin and her warriors greatly inspired the army that quickly showed up in their wake. So they basically were the first line of defense. Yeah.
That was really nice of them, honestly. Yeah. Like, take your time, actual army. No. I mean, it's fine.
It sounds like, though, but I wonder, though, because they probably were at the retreat with him when he was captured.
Oh, okay.
And then the reinforcers have to come. I'm just imagining that, but logistically, I'm like, oh, maybe they were at the mountain retreat with him.
All of them.
Yeah, so they just thought, oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he took them all. That's the whole point of having a harem.
That's fair. That's
and so instead of waiting, she's like, we're going to go and get him back. But the bravery is still just amazing. But the army showed up behind, and they actually defeated the rebel army.
Oh.
And when they were defeated, Zhu, he ordered that Lin and her all-female soldiers and warriors given an honorable burial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal back then.
Yeah, a big deal. Now, because this was so remarkable, it didn't take long for others to start spreading the story of Lin Singiang.
Okay.
The 15-year-old peasant girl who rose to live in the court, then fight as a soldier and die in battle in glory.
Wow.
Which is just the stuff that, I mean, this is just,
damn.
This is amazing, because I feel like our teenagers now,
no,
they couldn't even do this. They're doing this in like video games.
Yeah. Listen, when I was a teenager, we weren't doing this either. No. We were renting Tom Cruise movies at Blockbuster. That's what we were doing.
Blockbuster. Okay. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, because I'm old. Okay. You heard me.
But that's the story of Lin Singiang.
That's an amazing story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that the warrior fighter born in 1629. Like,
wow,
these women are amazing. The women that we covered today are amazing. Like, they're notorious for good reasons.
Yeah, we have a good reasons Notorious episode today.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we've said before that, you can be notorious for a number of reasons. It's because you have killed somebody or been killed for standing up for your rights,
right?
Or been courageous or brave, or you've been a terrible person who kills children and random people on the street for insurance money.
Yeah, that's bad. Those are bad people. We'll talk about them too. But not today. Today we're inspired. Today.
I know. Today we have to do a palate cleanser because there are so many terrible. Listen, that's our thing, right? That women can be horrible too.
Mm-hmm. We run the gamut of humanity just like men do.
Yeah, we can be horrible too, but it is very refreshing, because I think sometimes from our title people think, oh, it's all going to be just serial killers or scandalous women. But we cover women like Victoria who was doing the best she could to live a beautiful life and a life filled with joy, and who had to put up with assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with Lin Singiang, again, I'm butchering her name, who born into an impoverished family, and after her parents die, she has to turn to sex work, but she's like, you know what? I make the most of it. I'm keep doing me. And then it brings her to the court, and she's like, I'm still going to do me. Because when she did her, she was able to really probably change. Imagine the lives of the other concubines that she changed.
Right.
Other women who may have thought that they weren't smart enough or capable enough to become a warrior.
And then imagine those women, the ones that perhaps survived, right? And they have daughters. And maybe maybe they say they raise them like a little differently.
Exactly.
Like that really matters. That affects a lot more than is obvious, I think. But I think like for you and I, for Notorious Women, it's to round out the lives, right? It's to make it to make the experience of being a woman as interesting and complicated, because our history does not give us this. Not in public school, as you and I very well know.
And it's only going to get worse, because they definitely want to dumb up the kids even more.
Yeah, they do. And that's why we're here.
We're here. We're not historians. Hashtag
no,
not historians.
Absolutely not. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we just want to add our little bit, I'm a big podcast listener. And, when we came up with this idea, we just thought, what can we do to set ourselves apart from other podcasts, but also to add to it, to make something that's interesting, that's educational, but also funny, because, I mean, we're a couple of funny ladies.
Hilarious. I do say so myself. I do. I say it. I don't know if anyone else does it, but I say it. So it's a start. It's definitely a start.
But we always just want to educate people. And like you said, I love what you just said earlier, just a moment ago, about like expanding like what it means to be a woman, the stories of women's lives, that is more complicated. It's more, it's not just one thing. It's not, women aren't, virginal and pure, whatever that means.
No. I mean, some of them are, sure. But like whatever that means. And also
whatever that means. They are whoever they say they are.
Yeah, there you go. And also too, like as a woman, like personally doing this we're going to go on. Sorry. It's very empowering knowing that our history, like as the women of our history, like our female ancestors, right? I'll encompass everyone.
Yeah.
As every female.
Yeah, our womanness.
A womanness. Yes. That's it.
Because, Black women aren't feminists. We're womanist.
We're womanist. There you go. I didn't know that. This is new.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. No, it's actually a study. I jest, but it's like womanist is different than just a feminist. But
okay. I like that because it encompasses every woman.
It also,
right?
Yes, and it's inclusive of intersectionality.
I like that. I'm a womanist.
So,
can I be a womanist? Okay.
Yeah, you could be a womanist.
It gives us that history to call upon when we go outside the boxes that have been designed for us. Yeah. At least, Yeah. At least that's how I feel.
No, you can't. Again, you are what you believe, and so, but a lot of times you can't be it unless you see it or hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to hear these stories of these remarkable women like VITORIA and LIN from like 1500s, 1600s who did remarkable things, when you feel like you're overwhelmed, brave things, and live their lives on their own terms, it can hopefully it makes us a little bit braver in our everyday lives, to maybe go outside of our own boxes. And also, but it's so funny because I feel like when we're growing up, children are so much smarter than adults. I just feel like we're born smart and then we get dumber when we get socialized.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Because, these adults are doing these horrible things in the name of protecting children. The children don't need to be protected. The children the people that they should protect the children from, they're not protecting the children from them.
Nope. 100%. Also, miseducating children protects nobody. And that's what they're doing.
And also this whole thing, like, and I'm specifically thinking of like fucking Florida, but like drag queens, I'm like, have you met a drag queen? Drag queens are the best.
I mean,
they're fun.
Like, they're super fun.
What's creepy? you know what's creepy? Pennywise, the fucking clown.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're fine. We're fine with that. We are fine with children dressing as that for Halloween. I know because I went out on Halloween with my children. That's fine.
You did not see
Yes, I
children dressed.
did. Yes, I did.
Pennywise, the one who eats children in the sewer.
That's the one. The one who eats children in the sewer. Little babies were dressed. The thing is funny, but you're afraid of a drag queen? Okay.
Yeah,
No,
they could suck
I
it.
won't. Mm-mm.
It's disingenuous, and we all see through it. But unfortunately, this is why you need to vote. I'm gonna get on my high horse. Vote these motherfuckers out. That's the only thing they're afraid of. Not having any power. Not having any power. So, I mean, I guess we can start wrapping it up, but don't get me started. These people are like, your vote doesn't matter, because you know how, why they want you to believe that? So they can get on these school boards, so they can get into these on these boards in these state houses and pass these laws to harass people.
So listen, like, while we're on the subject, check out your very local voting. Because I had to be told that there were votes coming up. I had no idea. It's not like Google it. Like, Google local votes and then put in your, I have a friend who just sends me everything. And I'll go vote for that. But like, that's where it starts. So before another DeSantis rises up.
You want to know how those idiots in Congress got elected, like MTG and that George Santos guy?
That's crazy. It's also crazy.
If I wrote a script,
no, I wouldn't believe you. I'd be like, this is not believable. Sorry.
We're
Try
being
again,
scammed
Lavetta, because
right before our eyes. Like, you know how we had that section of like where we were all obsessed with the scammers on like the Facebook scammer and what is it, the dating app scammer, Anna Delvey, like, you know, like we had all of those, right? Now I feel like we're moving on to political scammers. You know,
it's there, and we're like, okay, because like, what can you do? Well, we can vote.
We can vote.
Vote. Should we write a song? I think we should write a song. I'm not a songwriter, but I can fake it.
I don't know what.
All right.
Okay.
Vote. I wanna vote. Okay.
Vote. 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 Vote.
Vote. Vote. Vote. Vote. All right. I'll stop. We can wrap this up. There we go. That was beautiful. All right, guys, really, wraps it really up. Beautiful.
That wraps it up for the latest episode of Notorious Women. Guys, remember to follow us on all the things. Also tell your friends and family about our podcast. Actually, just copy the link, send it to them, download and subscribe, and also go to iTunes and 5 stars. 5 stars.
5 stars. Just click the 5 stars. Listen, if you have an extra 3 minutes, you can just click write a review and be like,
no, you don't even need that. 45 seconds. Click.
45 seconds.
These women rock.
These women rock! Exclamation point. You know.
You're welcome.
See, we wrote it out for you. All right.
Miriam, do you want to tell them where they can find us?
I do, and I'm ready too. That's new. All right. So we have an Instagram, Notorious Women Podcast on Instagram. Please find us. Please comment about things, because every so often, like, a man thinks he has an opinion about things, and like, we maybe need to put him in his place. I'm just saying, like, come join us at Instagram.
Unless you're a nice man and you could leave a comment.
No, a nice man would be great. Then you could comment. You could tell all those other not nice men where to put it. Okay, I said it. We also have a Gmail, which is notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. You can like tell us we're great. You can tell us about other women that we maybe are not on our radar. That'd be great.
Yeah, especially we want to do as many BIPOC women as we can.
Yep.
You know, because we're always going to do the white ladies. We like our white ladies.
No, it's
white
fine.
ladies.
But, it's, you know, if you like, honestly, like, if you have like insight to like a woman from another country where maybe we don't have as many resources to find things, but like you do, like, we super welcome that, because we like search. Sometimes it's really hard because we like literally the information is not easily available.
Yeah,
so.
we're just that's a great point, Miriam. That's a great point. But we like all the ladies, so
Yes.
the ladies, man. Again, poker face. Did you see
What?
Tim Meadows?
No,
Anyway, we'll talk about it next week. All right, guys.
Okay, I'll catch up.
See you later.
Bye.